Nhóm 5 sẵn sàng chưa nhỉ? Hello. Mic test với. Ok. Mọi người nhìn được màn hình rồi đúng không ạ?
Ok.
Nhìn được rồi.
Dạ, okay. Ok, vậy thì nhóm mình sẽ bắt đầu nhé.
Welcome everyone. We are group number 5 with 10 members here. For today's presentation, we continue the topic of chapter 11, What Drives Us? And we focus on the subject sexual orientation. We will discuss two main questions. What has research taught us about sexual orientations, and what role do social factors play in our sexuality? The first part will be presented by my teammate Dũng.
All right, thank you, Dan. Okay, so we will first start with my part, which discussed the first question here. What has research taught us about sexual orientation, right? Okay. Now, first thing first, we ask ourselves the question of the subject, right? The big question, so what is sexual orientation? Okay, so by definition, you can see over here, sexual orientation is a person's sexual or romantic attraction towards one or more specific genders, right? A lot of words, a lot of terms I can see that can be very confusing. So a better way to understand the subject is actually to differentiate sexual orientation with other aspects of our body, including sex and gender of an individual, okay? Which leads us to the next slide over here, okay? As you can see on the screen here, there's three main terms that we would want to present and also want you guys to tell the difference among them, right? Okay, so first, sex is a person, sex as in like in your identity card, right? Sex refers to a person's physical sexual anatomy, or your outer body or your genitalia in specific, right? Okay. Gender, however, is a different thing that refers to how a person feels about themselves, like how they identify themselves either as a man or woman or someone in between or someone that is outside of that spectrum, okay? And finally, sexual orientation is also another thing that is different. It refers to a person's romantic or sexual attractions towards a group of individual, towards a group of gender, let's say so, okay? The types will be discussed later, but for now, we'd want you guys to memorize these differences and tell how they are separate from each other, okay? Okay, the following illustration can better analyze it, okay? This is the illustration of the genderbread person by Sam Tillerman. So here there's many versions of this, but here he identified different terms that we just discussed, right? So sex is our physical body, refers to our the physical body that we the anatomy that we possess, that categorize us into female or male, or sometimes in rare cases intersex, which is another thing, right? But in general, that's what sex is, okay? And identity or expression belongs to the umbrella of gender over here, that categorize you into how you identify yourself to be a woman or a man or someone in between, like a gender queer, right? And finally, sexual orientation, which is what we want to focus about, is how we feel attracted to other people, right? Which can categorize you into heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, which will be discussed later on, right? But for now, we want you to tell the difference between these three things, okay? Is that that's simple enough, right? All right. We move on to the next question. So now that we have understood the definition, right? We move further into what are the types of sexual orientation and what do they mean, right? So we want to present the 6 most common types of sexual orientation that mostly cover the whole umbrella of sexual orientation. Okay, the first one is heterosexual, which are people who are attracted to a different gender from their own. That is the majority of the population, right? Men who are attracted to women and women who are attracted to men, vice versa. Or in a more casual way, we call them like straight people, right? Okay, and their counterpart is homosexual, who are the people attracted to the same genders as theirs, like the men who are attracted to men, right? We refer to them casually as gay, and on the women aspect, we refer to them as lesbian, right? Yeah, familiar, right? And the third one is bisexual, are the people who are attracted to both genders of men and women. Also, I think this is very familiar with us now. Now, moving on to something that is a bit more new, I guess, to some of you. Pansexual are the people whose attraction span across multiple different genders. Okay, and on the other spectrum are asexual people who do not have attraction for any specific genders. Not that they don't have any kind of attraction at all. It's just that their attraction is not determined by the other people's genders. Okay, and finally we have questioning, are the people who are still unsure about their sexual orientation, right? Because for a lot of people, it's not as clear as like, am I attracted to men or women or any type of gender, right? So for the people that are unsure, they are questioning, okay? All right, now, so we have figured the definition. We have talked about the types of sexual orientation, easy enough, right? With the description that I've just given. Now let's have a little, let's say like an activity, right, for you guys to engage in. So we have 2 examples about 2 different people here with a little description that we show. And now after reading the description, we would want you guys to type in the box chat, or type in the box chat privately or not, and tell us, what do you think are these people sex, gender, and sexual orientation? Okay, so let's start with Alex over here. Alex was born as a girl, and she identifies herself as a woman. Okay, and she tends to have attraction to both men and women. Okay, so the question, what is her sex, what is her gender, and what's her sexual orientation? Please type in the box chat if you want to. Okay. Some of you are very quick. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for your answers. Let's move on over here and we can see better. Okay. So this is like the answers maybe. Yeah. So because Alex was born as a girl, her physical anatomy is of a girl, is of a female, right? So her sex is a female. And because she identifies herself as a woman, that is matched with her sex, her gender, simple as that, is a woman, right? And finally, her sexual orientation is bisexual because we have just read, right? She is attracted to both gender, men and women. So bisexual over here. Okay. Yeah, simple enough, right? Okay. So some of you got the correct answers. Congratulations. Okay, let's move on to our second example, a little bit trickier. So meet Dorn. Dorn was born as a girl. However, he identifies himself as a man when he grew up. In his life, he start to realize things about himself, and he identifies himself as a man, right? And he has a transition to transform his physical anatomy to a man. All right. So now now we talk about him. That is after his transition. Okay. And he realized that even before or after the transition, he's only attracted to men, to the people of his own gender. Okay. So what are his sex, gender, and sexual orientation? Okay. Right, so let's see the answers over here. Okay, for sex, he was born as a girl, right? So initially he was a female. However, after he has a transformation to transform his physical anatomy to a man, he is now male. That is a phenomenon happens when a person's gender is different from their sex. So they can go through a transition of gender to transform their physical anatomy, and we refer to them as trans people. Okay, but or for Dorn is a trans man, which refers to his gender of a man over here, right? And for his sexual orientation, because he identified himself as a man, and he's attracted to men of his own gender, right? So his type is homosexual. Okay, so some of you actually got it correct. Congratulations. Yeah, but that's the basic idea of what our sexual orientation is and how it varies in different identities, right? And sex, the bottom line is sex, gender, and sexual orientation essentially link together to form the identities of people all around us, our society. So if we better understand sexual orientation, we have the capacity to further explore it, as well as its role, its impacts in our life. Okay, which leads us to the next part, presented by my teammate, Zoom.
Thank you for introducing me. So the next question that we will clarify is, what role do social factors play in our sexuality? So as you can see, there are two different approaches to interpret and answer the question. On the one hand, this can be understood as uncovering what the social causes for our sexuality are. And on the other hand, this may be understood as exploring how our sexuality affects other social factors. On the first approach, the answer still remains unclear and inconclusive. There has been good evidence that genetic attribute and non-social environmental factors can affect a person's sexual orientation, while a lack of evidence that social environment can affect sexual orientation is present. However, there has also been evidence that different sexual orientation bear different variability in terms of fluidity. In other words, sexual orientation can vary with a diverse range of traits, degree, and fluidity, even in adulthood. This means there can still be the possibility that the social environment bears significant impact on person orientation. Even with the assumption that our sexuality is determined and impacted by a mixed set of nature and nurture factors, we still cannot pinpoint exactly what those factors are. And without firm and specific conclusion, the cause of sexual orientation should be best left for further research in the future. Meanwhile, another approach can be discussed: how sexual orientation can affect the other factor. So next,
Minh Ngọc will talk about the second approach.
Thanks. And now introduce the next is romantic and erotic relationship. And the last is awareness for the society. And in the next slide, firstly, our sexual desires are attached to compatible sexual partner, and our desired orgasmic function, overall satisfaction, can be influenced by sexual orientation. And final information of sex orientation. So learning about sexual orientation is a role for everybody to lead towards physical, mental well-being. And the second one is romantic and erotic relationship. Sexual interaction promote connection, develop reliability, and also help maintain the bond of the relationship. And sexual orientation is essential in defining sexuality, regardless of trust or commitment of the relationship. Therefore, it's become necessary to better comprehend the orientation to maintain and improve our relationship. And the last one is awareness for the society. The LGBTQ plus community plays a small but non-trivial role across culture around the globe, and sexual orientation is part of the cause of LGBTQ plus community. To consequently to better understand sexual orientation is a way to show support and to better political situation, the society. And now Dan will introduce the next part.
There are 100 ways to support LGBTQ plus. Number 1, educate yourself on sexual orientation and genders. Number 2, be sympathetic and supportive with people of the LGBTQ community. Number 3, stand up against homophobia and transphobia. Number 4, spread the word of positivity. And reach out to LGBTQ plus communities and movement. In conclusion, sexual orientation has been and will most likely continue to be an essential part of humans' well-being. Through this, each person can better physical and psychological desire, the quality and longevity of relationships, as well as the awareness support for the diversity of the society. Thank you for listening. Anyone have a question for us?
Okay, thank you, group 5. Okay, I also see Thuy An raise hand. Okay, Thuy An, please.